What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Payton Collier podcast. My next guest is our very first female guest to appear on the show. She's an ambitious violinist and singer from California who has spent her life mastering the art of accompanying all styles of music. She currently lives in Nashville and plays in country music star Kofi Anderson's band, with whom she appeared on the Grand Ole Opry earlier this year. She travels all over the world, bringing vibrant energy and orchestral soundscapes to every stage she graces. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Melissa Barrison. Here we are, everybody. Melissa Barrison is here today from San Diego, California. What is up, Melissa? How are you doing?
Doing good.
It is so good to have you here today. Thanks for driving out to my place.
Thanks for having me.
And I saw you at a gig last night. You played before I did.
I know. We just crossed paths just for a moment.
Yes, and I said, you better not bail on me tomorrow. And you said, I'm not going to bail.
Not going to bail. I'm here.
You said, I'll text you when I'm on the way. So good to see you then. And you are also, this is my 5th episode, so you are my first female guest. So you are representing the ladies in the house.
Yeah.
Today.
Hey.
What is up? So just getting into it, kind of my theme with this podcast is I really want to talk to people that have unorthodox careers in music. And I think you have there's probably not a lot of female fiddle players from San Diego that have done all the things that you do. So, So what was your life like growing up in San Diego, and how did you get that fiddle in your hands? We'll do the cliche questions to start off before we are asking you what your favorite Netflix show is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, originally I'm actually from Northern California, and that's where I started playing violin. And I've only been a fiddle player for about 4 or 5 years.
So classically trained,
Yes.
are you?
Yes. I started late compared to my peers. I started when I was like 8 or 9, and most of my colleagues in college, they started at like age 2, private lessons. I only had about 6 months. And the lady that taught me violin was the complex manager of the apartment complex that I lived at in Northern California. She had played for the San Jose Symphony, and she was really good friends with my mom, and she's like, oh, get little Melissa to play violin.
At age 9.
Yeah.
So was there orchestra in school?
No,
So-
not yet. No, it was, they started in 5th grade up in the Bay. And then, I had about, like I said, 6 months of private lessons. And then my mom decided to move down to San Diego, where she had, I had aunts and uncles and cousins, and we had family, and they had started in 4th grade. So yeah.
And so you're 9 years old. You get a violin in your hand, which is not the purple, sparkly,
No.
rhinestone coated ones that you have now,
No.
that you go all out with. And so did you feel like, was there an immediate interest with the instrument, or was it like a thing where like you didn't want to do it? Like I know like a lot of kids lose interest if it's something like their parents are making them do or whatever.
Absolutely. I hated it. I cried. I told my mom I was going to throw it out the window. I didn't want to practice. She forced me. And yeah, I'm glad she did, though.
Yeah. And it is, so now you play, I guess your main gig, you would say it is maybe, or a very frequent gig, is you play fiddle for the country artist Kofi Anderson. I'm saying that correctly, right?
Yes.
I looked it up on the internet how to say it before I brought it up today. And I was like, should I say that I looked it up? And then I was like, no, I should just, go out and be really confident about saying Kofi. But I mean, everybody's saying coffee first.
Yeah, right? They say coffee, they say Kofi, they say cafe.
Yeah.
Coffee. I
Yeah.
mean,
So I did my research before I had, Kofi Anderson's fiddle player on. So you're crying, you're throwing it out the window. So at what point in the learning of this instrument did you take a liking to it, and then it starts to become part of your identity and then an eventual career path?
Honestly, it happened in waves. So the first time it happened was when we moved to San Diego, and I had already taken some lessons, and they had started playing violin and string instruments here, but I was ahead. And so naturally, being a string player, I'm like, oh, look at me. I already know. That's like the stipulation that we have. So that was my first era of, oh, I like this. But then soon everybody caught up to my level, and then I was behind because everyone was taking private lessons. So then I hated it again, and it was like middle school, high school, I wanted to quit. I almost quit my freshman year. I mean, I sat in the back of orchestra in tears with my orchestra director actually put clothespins on my bow from the frog all the way to the tip. And he's like, all right, full bow, bunny ear to bunny ear. It was so embarrassing as a freshman in high school. And I wanted to quit. My mom wouldn't let me. And I went to the library and checked out books and checked out VHSs on how to play the violin and how to get better. And by senior year, I was concert master of my orchestra.
Bam, baby. Concert master up in this bitch. So scoot over frog bow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I worked really hard, and then I ended up leading my orchestra for school and an after-school orchestra, youth philharmonic. I became concert master for that as well. And then, of course, I'm good at it. Everybody look at me. Now I like it again.
Right.
And then
so huge boost of confidence, like when you're in you get what concert master is what it's called, but
yeah,
it's like first chair,
it's
right?
The highest chair. Yeah, you're leading the orchestra.
Yeah, it's a throne.
It's the yeah.
At what point did you start making money professionally with your violin, and at what point was there a transition that was like, this can go from just a side gig thing to I can have a full life and career and travel and see the world and go from being concert master to playing with Cafe Anderson on the Grand Ole Opry. So when did that transition happen for you?
It was probably sophomore and junior year. I started playing in rock bands.
Of high school?
Of college.
College. So where'd you go to college?
Point Loma Nazarene University.
Say that slow again for our listeners. We have a lot of my parents' friends listen to this show, and they're very old. They can't hear very well. So where was this at?
Point Loma Nazarene University.
Point Loma Nazarene University. Yeah. Probably you're probably their most proud.
Oh, I don't know about that. There's been a lot of great talent and business and nurses that have come out of that school. It's a phenomenal school. I'll be paying for it for the rest of my life. But
really?
Private Christian university.
What'd you
right
study?
On the water. I was a music major.
Okay.
With a concentration in music education. And so I was kind of like, I'll just become a teacher. And then growing up, I also did a lot of dance. I was a dancer. I didn't think I was going to be a musician. I thought I was going to be a dancer. Yeah. So I've always been drawn to just being a performer. That has been my muse and my passion. And so my mom kind of, I think a huge reason why she didn't let me quit was because she saw, hey, growing up below the poverty line, she's like, this is your ticket to college. This is your ticket to, getting a scholarship and being able to make more money and get out of poverty. She didn't want me to quit. That was my ticket to college. So I think just taking my love for the arts and for performance, I, used playing the violin. And I chose that as my mean to become a performer. So I'm like, all right, I'm not the best fiddle player. I'm not the best, classical violinist. I'm not the most technical, but I will, outperform anybody.
I would agree with that. Most certainly. Or not that you're, not the best, but I mean, it is certainly, you are certainly a presence on stage, and you start dancing and spin around and jumping out in the crowd, and you do what you like. What's that backbreaker move? What do you call that?
Little back bend.
Where you like back bend. Yeah. We have to input a little video right there of you doing that. I can definitely relate to that because I, believe it or not, as a kid was always comfortable on a microphone. And so even though I wasn't a good singer or anything, I didn't really have any natural talent or attraction to music. Mm-hmm. I sure did like to have a microphone and be on stage. So I tried all these different, of course I was in theater, in high school and stuff. I studied theater in college, and I feel like I tried every avenue of performing. And then music was just the freest one. And so I kind of have a similar approach, that it was a career avenue that I took because it was but just to perform.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And not to say that, we don't disregard our craft or try to be the best that we can be.
Or practice.
Practice and play our best and be as technical as we can be. Because I definitely strive for that. I didn't, being a female in the industry, I didn't want to get gigs or get ahead just because I'm a girl or just because I look good. I want to, be able to be successful on my own merit of my hard work and being able to play. As I know there are a lot of female musicians out there, specifically violin players that, they're not really that great of players, but they look great doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think that's probably common in every field of work.
Absolutely.
I think
absolutely.
It is important to keep a solid perspective on knowing why you're doing it and where your rewards are coming from. So if you are merited for something that you really worked your ass off on, like I'm sure, like taking it back to the concert master, because I just like that term, concert master. That's what I want. I want to be the concert master one day.
You are every time you step on that stage and lead a band.
Yeah,
you're the master of the
I've
concert.
been like a damn fool. But it's not quite the same if you're not at Fort Lima of Nazarene or what?
Point Loma.
Point Loma. Fort Lima. There's definitely a school
somewhere in the universe
in California. So when you did get the concert master thing, though, like were you so happy that you'd like I'm sure you're practicing for weeks. You're memorizing all these pieces of music. So
honestly, I wasn't actually going for concertmaster. We had auditions to be placed. And based on your skill level, our orchestra conductor would, say where we sat in the orchestra. And, I just wanted a good seat. I wasn't trying to.
I didn't know if your mom was like super proud of you, when she found out like my daughter's the.
She was. I mean, I was surprised. She was surprised. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
And it also set the tone for kind of the rest of my career, not just music wise, but just life wise of like, just do your best and work as hard as you can. And you'd be surprised how much further you're going to get, than the expectations that you set for yourself.
Right. Yeah. And I also think too, I like to look back at, like the little milestones or whatever, like great moments that happen. And when it gets discouraging, what we do, or like when you get burnout or you're traveling, you get jet lag or whatever it is. And you think, boy, 9-year-old me would probably sure be proud if they could see all the things that I've accomplished. And I think like me at my age right now, I'm like, I don't think shit of it. It's like just another gig or like just another Nashville dive bar or whatever. But
absolutely.
But a younger me would be happy that I did end up becoming the concert master one day. So we're in college, and you said you start playing with rock bands or something.
Yeah. I locked myself in the band room because I loved Led Zeppelin. I loved the Doors. I loved rock and roll growing up. And my mom got me a little Fender guitar, but I couldn't really play it that well, a little electric Starcaster. And I wanted to play rock and roll like right off the bat. And so I was like, well, I already play violin. Let me see if I can mimic some of these guitar licks. And so I'd lock myself in the band room and put on the Doors and just call and response, whatever the guitar player would play, I'd try to play it back. And then I, started going to local shows, and then say, hey, you want a violinist? Like, I'd love to. Oh, wow, that's amazing. And then all of a sudden I started playing with rock bands. And then I had a goal to be the best, most versatile violinist in San Diego. And I wanted to be able to sit into any musical genre, any band, any situation, whether it was a quartet, a wedding, an orchestra, a reggae band, whatever it was, and fit in and feel comfortable. And that was my goal my sophomore, junior year.
What helped you identify that goal? Because that's really, not to cut you off, but I'm saying, just getting into the weeds of the psychology of that's how you build a career, and that's how you become better than the person beside you, is the goal. Because everybody like lays in bed at night and they're like, I want to be great. I want to be on the big stage. Mm-hmm. And everybody can conceptualize, that happening to them. But when you do set that goal and you go down a path to achieve that goal, that's the difference in making things happen in your life. And you set this goal your sophomore year and say, I'm going to be the most versatile fiddle player in San Diego. What got you in that headspace?
There was one other gal in San Diego that was just a dynamite electric violin player. She had played for one of the biggest San Diego bands, Transfer. Her name is Marta. And she was this tiny little Russian girl, had her doctorate in violin viola performance, and she'd get up in little short shorts and a little top and high heels and just shred and look amazing. And I thought she was just the coolest thing in the world. And I was like, I want to do that. But she played rock, and I love so many other types of music other than rock and roll. And there was so many other bands, and my friends played all over, all different types. So I was like, I want to be able to fit in. I want to be the top player that anybody in town, doesn't matter what the job is or what type of music is, that they can call me and be like, get Melissa. She can do it. Mm-hmm. I'd always been attracted to finding a niche that felt unique to me, that I didn't have to share that with anybody else. And so as much as I looked up to Marta, I still wanted to make it my own. Even in college, I was the first violinist to join jazz band.
Love it.
But yeah, that's honestly where that came from. And I think by senior year, we had a project where we had to interview 3 people in a line of work that were doing what we wanted to do. So I got to interview Marta. I got to interview this other gal. Her name was Anna, and she played cello for Metallica and the Chili Peppers and Rage Against the Machines and Bush and all these all my favorite
So a bunch of nobodies. Total.
No big deal.
Never heard of them.
Right.
Never heard of those guys.
Right.
So how'd you get linked up with her? Did you reach out on social media or what?
No. So social media wasn't as big of a connecting force as it is today, although I've utilized that like crazy to expand my Rolodex. No, another gal in my orchestra that I played with, we were best friends and roommates at the time. She was already friends and slightly connected to some of the local San Diego groups. There was a band called Louis the 14th and the Nervous Records, and they were really good friends with the Killers. And so she kind of, helped me get my foot in the door with those bands. And we ended up getting a gig for Rihanna at the Los Angeles Staples Center. So me and her traveled up to LA and played in an orchestra for Rihanna. And that's where I met Anna, the cellist.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The one that played with a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah.
Right. And so when's the money start rolling in?
So
the money as in, I don't have to work a different job. Like at this time in your life, are you...
no, I'm playing for free. I'm playing for drink tickets, even though I don't drink.
Did you have a real job?
Yeah. So I worked at a music school, which was super fun. And I got to learn the ins and outs of what it takes to run a music school, a rehearsal studio, repairs. Everything under the umbrella of music. But yeah, I was still working full time and just saying yes to everybody and anybody. And when was it? It was probably right after my first big tour. When I started saying no, I got offered to do a 2-month gig with Paramore. Yeah, but it was...
Where you from?
It was a string trio, and we were seated. The pay wasn't actually that great, but we were going to play all the major venues. But I would have had to turn down a ton of work. So financially, I had to learn to say no, even though it was like a really cool opportunity. It just didn't outweigh what I was getting paid as well as what I was going to sacrifice having to break all my relationships and prior commitments with people in San Diego. So it was probably about 2016, 2017 when I came back from a 3-month tour with a Latin world beat reggae band. That was like the best experience of my life. That I decided to just work part-time and start pursuing music more towards full-time. I started getting calls asking if I could do electric violin DJ work. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to DJ. And they were like, oh, well, this one gal, her name is Jennifer Spag. She's like the top electric violinist in LA, pretty much Southern California. She was getting so big that there were gigs she was turning down because they didn't pay enough. So they would call me and say, hey, can you do what Spags does? And at first I would say no. I was, nervous. I can't do that. That's not me. And then finally I just had a friend say, hey, just put on a track and play to it. That's all you have to do. And so I did my first gig. I was so scared, but I got paid really, really well. And so then the more I did it, the more people kept asking me back. Then I'd start asking for more money. And it just kind of snowballed into eventually I didn't have to work a day job. And that was my bread and butter. I only needed a few of those gigs a month to cover my bills. And then all my other music stuff was extra.
I think there's a lot of confidence that comes from that too, of like, this can just be my life. I think I was just able to, I've always felt super like uncomfortable, like in college. Like I remember having a backpack on. I just remember feeling like, the fuck am I doing? Walking around here, like going to classes with all these dipshits, which it's fine if that's what you want to do. But I was one of the people that went to college because that's what you're supposed to do. Uh-huh. And so the whole time I'm just like walking around and and so like I told you earlier, I guess you didn't know I worked in a piano bar. No. And that's what happened to me. Actually, I had like 6 weeks left of my final semester of school, and I had like this psychedelic drug-induced epiphany. I was like, oh, I'm just going to play music for the rest of my life. I've figured it out.
No way.
And and then I was making so like money that I couldn't even imagine at that time in my, because I'm like, right at 21. And so the financial anxiety that was alleviated from being able to pay all of my bills playing music, that happened at about 21, and that changed my whole outlook in my course when I knew that I could pay my bills with the keys and the ivories, that is the 88 keys, not like janitor keys,
right?
Of course. So that you did turn down that Paramore opportunity to keep all of your other opportunities that you had prior. So you didn't burn any bridges.
Right.
Did you ever regret doing that, or do you feel like you made the right choice?
I mean, I do look back and I wonder, knowing what I know now, would I still make the same choice? I don't know, because a lot of the people that I was so concerned on, keeping good ties with, I'm not in contact with them today. A lot of them are real estate agents or have families. Like, it didn't really make or break them. But that opportunity and anybody I could have met on that tour could have totally changed where I am today.
So did you ever look back on that and be like, man, I probably should have said yes to that just for like the residual benefits of that,
Yeah. I mean, there comes a point in your career where you have to figure out what's a priority. Is it, money and connections and fame and all that, or is it the people in your life, and the people that take care of you? And so, of course, today, like looking back, I'm like, I should have taken it. But in the moment, I felt like it was the right thing to do for the people that were in my life. So, I still stand by it. I still feel good about it.
I really admire that.
Thanks.
That you care about people in your life.
I try.
A lot of people don't.
I try, it's people are like, oh, are you going to make it? You're going to be famous. I mean, I lived close enough to LA to know what, how people use people and stepping stones and all that. And I'm like, that's not what it's about. Like, I've already made it. I make a living doing what I love. I have awesome people in my life. I get to travel. I don't have to worry about money.
Right.
And I'm happy. Like that to me, I've already made it. Anything after this is extra. And I always go for extra credit. So.
There you go. Were you a good student?
Oh yeah, I was definitely.
Were you a nerd?
Yeah. Oh, I was.
What kind of nerd? Like glasses, like nose in a book nerd?
I had glasses, braces, and a rolly backpack. I was an orchestra, obviously, so there was that. My freshman, sophomore year, I wore black every single day and hung out with all the punk rock goth kids.
Yeah.
And then by senior year, all my friends were a year older than me, so they graduated.
Same.
And I ate lunch with my teachers by myself.
That is literally verbatim exactly what I did. Every single friend I had graduated 1 year before me, and I literally would go get to school in the morning. I had one teacher that I really connected to. Shout out Ginger Mills.
Hey.
Definitely better watch this. So anybody that keeps up with me or pays attention to my podcast, are going to be seeing you sitting here so subdued, not in like a crazy exotic outfit, doing backbreaker fiddle moves and stuff. And so they have no idea just the level of energy that comes with a Melissa Barrison show. I'm talking, it's kind of like the equivalent of like Irish river dancing, just bouncing around the whole time.
I can't be still. That was another reason why I couldn't take the Paramore gig. I'm like, I'm going to be squirming the whole time. I'm going to want to get up and rock.
Broadway has made that worse for me too. I can't do piano gigs anymore. One, I just don't really enjoy them
They just need to give you a keytar.
Yeah, the keytar is where it's at, baby. Yeah, that's how you.
Please get a keytar this year.
Chicks dig the keytar.
Oh my gosh!
So, how many years were you? Were you just like floating on local gigs and stuff before real like traveling opportunities? And then, of course, when did Nashville get put on your map? And when did that become a place that you started traveling to and building relationships with people here?
Yeah. So I actually started visiting Nashville in like 2016, 2017. I had a bunch of friends from San Diego move out, and they're like, this is before Nashville really exploded. And they're like, come out here. It's so great. You'll have work, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? There's no beach. There's no palm trees. Like, why would I go to the middle of nowhere? And they're like, trust me, it's going to be cool. I'm like, okay, well, I'll come visit. But I still stayed in San Diego. I worked part-time. I did music. I didn't want to be a full-time musician. I still wanted to have a day job so that way I could pick and choose what gigs I could do. Music, I never wanted it to be a job. I didn't want to say, I have to have this many students or I have to play this many gigs or I got to play with that tribute band or whatever. I wanted it to be like, I get to. So I did that 2016 through 2018, and then I became a full-time musician. I was like, I'm doing it. I started making bank on all my corporate gigs, and the economy was great. I was just making great money. I was spending a lot of money. My best friend and I were just living the life, eating sushi every weekend. Like, it was great. And then the pandemic hit, and quarantine and all my gigs stopped. The world stopped.
It really stopped in California.
Yeah. I mean, she had a Denali with a little sunroof. And so we started a little side business called Viogram, where if it was somebody's birthday, they would call me and then I would say, I'll pick 3 songs, including Happy Birthday. And then I'd put my little battery powered Fishman amp on top of her car. I'd crawl through the sunroof and I'd stand on top of the car and I would play violin to backing tracks and Happy Birthday, and they would all come out of their house and the whole neighborhood would be like on their front steps listening to me play.
Unbelievable.
And then we get paid for that. It was super great. And like twice a week we'd be in a little cul-de-sac and I'd play for an hour for everybody. I'd sit out in their lawn chairs. So that was about the extent of my music over the pandemic.
Did you do live streams?
I did do live streams. They were just very unsatisfying because you finish a song and then it's like you just see little hearts pop up and it's all quiet and you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Very weird.
It was, 3 months in, I definitely had a breaking point. Also, it is kind of cool being on the other side of it now, seeing all of us that made it through.
Yeah.
Because it did weed out a lot of people that were kind of just barely making it.
Yeah.
Doing music full time.
Yeah.
In any capacity on large scale mainstream music or whatever, you know, it affected everybody. So, but the ones of us that made it to the other side, it's like we survived the plague of death or something. And yeah, so was that a dark time for you? Like, especially being stranded over there in California?
No, it was actually great. I mean, honestly, it's probably my fault, the pandemic, because for like the last few years, I had been working so much. I was like, I just wish the world would stop and everybody would just spend time together and watch the grass grow and smell the flowers.
And watch Tiger King.
And well, yes, of course.
Did you watch Tiger King?
Of course I did.
Is there any crazier story? Like it's so amazing, that story.
And I don't think that would have been what it was had it not come out during the pandemic. If it had come out like when everything was open, I don't know that it would have been as big of a hit. People wouldn't know about it.
Something about just the presence of Joe Exotic. Like, you know, they did like a second season where they like followed up with the other people.
Oh no.
But you know, Joe's in jail.
Right.
He almost got pardoned by Trump, or that was like a rumor that was going around, is that Trump was going to pardon Joe Exotic. God, I wish he would have.
Oh my gosh, we want another season.
He's got his like TV show, you know, he's just like,
finally got it.
He's like, if I see that bitch Carol Baskin, he's like, this is what I'm going to do right here. And like shoots like a blow up sex doll.
Right. I mean, that's all he wanted. He wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
And I will admit, I do love his albums. Like,
oh, don't even get me started.
I heard that's not really him singing, that he paid some guy, but it's still great.
Tell all the hunters.
Yes.
To lay down their guns.
Okay, well, next time we play Broadway, I'm gonna make that request. You need to play that.
Yeah. So the world opens back up.
Outside of California.
Outside of California. So are you a part of the people, the huge population of people that realize life is not getting back to normal here and it is everywhere else, and it might be time to relocate?
Yeah, well, honestly, I'd been trying to move out to Nashville since my first visit in 2016. And then I just felt like every year that I was like, okay, this is the year. Some producer from LA would be like, I'm going to put you under my wing for free. Or there'd be a tornado, or a bomb would go off, or like, it just felt like every year there was something keeping me from coming out here. And so finally, you know, the end of, I guess 2020. Yeah, the end of 2020 had been a year. My gigs were still getting, I would get gigs. I'm like, oh, cool, it's back open. And then, oh, no, they're going to bump it out, or, oh, they canceled, or, oh, COVID.
That was the worst part, was when they kept changing, like, hey, everybody, we'll be back, you know, like 2 weeks. And then it just
kept getting bumped out. And I'm like, I can't live like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I was watching on my social media. I mean, half my friends, if not most of them, were in Nashville at that point. And I was just watching everybody playing music and living their life and having a good time in Nashville. I'm like, well, you know what? Let's try again. You know, let me go out there. And, you know, all my doors in San Diego had pretty much closed. Like, everything was just kind of like, had put a definite stop for one reason or another. And I was like, all right, this is it. Let's go. And so, yeah, I just made the move in January. It'll be a year.
Of this year?
Yeah.
And then guess who was right behind you?
Oh.
Me in February, with yet another probably drug-induced overnight epiphany because I evaded moving here for so long because I knew, well, I do think in spirit of transparency, it's really easy to be a big fish in a small pond, right? Mm-hmm. And so the situation that I was in Indiana, I knew I was like, I can make, you know, a solid living a year and kind of, you know, stay really busy working in that territory and stuff. But if you come to Nashville and then you come here and fail, or you can't get gigs, well, then you're just not good enough to do it. So I think in my head, as a front person, I was like, I don't want to go down there and fail. So I think I kind of evaded it and stayed in my like little safe spot. But then when I had the epiphany, I was like, I'm coming down here, guns out, and of course, you know, like talking to every single bartender and stuff. And I
remember when you first came in.
Do you
remember that?
Thinking about that earlier today. It was at Layla's.
I'll never forget
and
that.
And you were playing, and I'm just
You had
scoping.
your hat on, and you're just standing there, just like laser eyes on the microphone, the front person, and then you're like, "Hey, I can do this." You like looked me dead in the eye. You're like, "I can do this."
No, I said, hey, How much to sing? No, but I said like I do what y'all do or something.
Yeah.
And you were so nice to me though, you know, like because that's kind of a hard thing to do, depending on whose show you walk into and who you talk to, and like just come in, you know, you're wearing the cowboy hat and you're like, you know, cool guy in the corner and be like, hey, can I sing? But I like introduced myself to you, and you were so nice to me. You were one of the people here that was so nice to me upon meeting you at stage. And you did actually ask the girl that you were playing with if I could play, and she said no. She said $100.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I can't spend all my hard-earned save up money.
I know, you just got out here.
Because I'd saved up like 10 grand to record an album.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'll just use that money to float me in Nashville because I don't know how long it's going to be till I can get work.
Right.
Luckily at that time,
Doesn't take long.
I got rolling pretty quick.
Oh, because you're that good.
Well, thank you. Not true, but thank you. So you found it. So you moved here in January to stay.
Yeah, and it's interesting, going off of what you were saying, being a big fish in a little pond. I kind of felt the opposite. Like being in San Diego, even if I had stayed and everything opened back up, I saw a ceiling, and I hit a ceiling. I mean, I was the top electric violinist. I was getting asked for all these gigs. I was turning things down. My schedule was full. I was making great money, but literally there was nowhere for me to go, like no room to grow. This was it. I can go back to San Diego at any time and continue being an electric violinist, playing the tracks, playing for corporate, and that's the rest of my life. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I was making a good living in one of the most beautiful and expensive cities in the country, in the world. But I wanted more. I wanted to grow. You know, I wanted to challenge myself and see how far I can get. Also, my skills were kind of going down the shooter. In San Diego, I was just playing quarter notes and half notes, and I wanted to be better.
I do think you have to want to be better. I think you have to be okay with getting your ass kicked.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, I had been visiting, like I said, since 2016, and you know, my friends would let me play on Broadway with them, and it felt like boot camp. Mm-hmm. I'd get on stage, and they'd be playing super, super fast, and I could barely keep up. But they were like, "Just keep going, keep trying, like keep going, don't stop." And I loved it. It was great because at one point I was like, oh, I can keep up. I can kind of do this. Like, great, I'm growing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the day we stop growing is the day we die, the day we stop learning. Like, I don't know. It's always been instilled to me to grow and move forward and learn.
Have you experienced any like adversity or difficulties, you think, being a woman? Like, do you think it's more difficult because there's a lot of angles, especially in a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think, you know, just being in the arts and being in music is definitely a lot easier than, say, anybody in corporate America. However, on the opposite side of that, being in country and being a female is historically very difficult. And then not only that, but being a woman of color in country has been very difficult. However, since the whole Black Lives Matter movement, you know, I personally won't speak where I stand on that, but I have noticed a huge push and, you know, more, I don't want to say more opportunities, but maybe more favor. But it's hard to tell if it's because I'm a woman and a woman of color, or if that's because I really am genuinely just good at what I do and they just want my brand. I don't know. The lines are very blurred, and I have experienced some pushback from men, you know, oh, little honey. I'll never forget, this was Grapevine, Texas. I was playing a show and the sound guy,
like a place where some shit like this would happen. Grapevine, Texas.
This little guy comes up. He's a sound guy. He's like, oh, now you see this little box? You know what this little box is here, little miss? And my bass player looked at me and I looked at him and he just shook his hand. And I was like, yeah, that's a DI box. And he's like, that's right. Like I didn't know what was what.
Was he being derogatory?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very
Where
strange.
My bass player had to stand up and be like, "Hey, man, that's not cool. Like, she's a professional. Have some respect." And I'm pretty blind to any racism or sexism that comes my way, because I'm just kind of happy-go-lucky. Oh, everybody's half glass full. Everyone, no one's out to get me, kind of thing. So I'm pretty oblivious to a lot of it, and I'm sure there's been a lot more that I just haven't noticed or care to notice. But honestly, playing with coffee has opened my eyes, and also I feel not alone in the country industry as far as someone of color. I feel very celebrated and embraced with Coffee and his band and his business, being a female of color, and being in country. Because I know even like 5-10 years ago, people of color in country, it was unheard of. Like, you had Darius Rucker, but that's only because he made it through because of
He's Hootie.
Yeah. So
shit, I played Let Her Cry at the honky tonk the other night and blew the roof off the damn place. Man, God bless Darius. So how'd you get involved with Cafe, and how did you start working for him full time?
He found me on Instagram, of all things. He messaged me on Instagram. We exchanged contacts, and then he called me shortly after that, and he said, "Hey, I have a show next week. Can you play these songs? Can you play these covers? Can you learn these?" I'm like, "Yep," because the answer is always yep. Can you do it? Yes, even if you don't think you can. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll fly you out. We got a show in, I don't remember if it was in California or in Tennessee, which our first one was. But yeah, that was it. And we had our first show, and the chemistry with me and the band. I mean, they all played behind their heads, and then we all did a back bend together. Like, I was like, oh my God, I found my tribe. These are my people.
I was like, that sounds like your greatest professional fantasy is everybody doing that.
Everybody at the end of the show, like they didn't tell me they were going to do it. Like, they just all started doing it. It was Sweet Home Alabama. And they all just were like, behind their head. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that too. And we all got on our knees, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm home. Like, I found my people. This is awesome.
That's what I was going to say. You're like, I've found my tribe. So I think I'm glad that is the story, because I do think, even for like myself, because I truly hate everything about social media. I hate like being on it, scrolling on it. I hate posting everything.
Oh, it's so powerful. So many amazing things.
Well, you're on it all the time. You post more stories than maybe anybody I follow. But it's good content.
Thank you.
And so important that you promote yourself on social media, and that you promote what you do, and that you have good pictures and good videos of yourself on there, because you got the opportunity of a lifetime, just by an Instagram message. And I'm sure the second he saw you, he goes, well, that's what I want in my band, so.
I mean, honestly, thank you for mentioning that, because I have had quite a few people over the last couple of weeks mention how much I post. And I mean, if I wasn't a musician, I'd be a filmmaker. So that's whole nother passion. It's a whole nother creative outlet. But you actually just made me think of another reason why I love to post on social media and I love to be so interactive, is because it led me to Cafe. It led me to, I actually met my dad on Facebook. He found me for the first time when I was 21.
Really? We're definitely going to get to that, but... What?
So many music experiences, Vegas, Canada, the list goes on. I mean, I got to go to Jamaica, Costa Rica because of social media.
Didn't you tell me that you have played in Tokyo?
No, I would love to go to Tokyo one day.
Somebody's played in Tokyo.
I'm sure. What's
the geographically furthest you've been from the homeland?
The
homeland.
Yeah. Whichever's further, Jamaica or Costa Rica.
Ooh, which has better weed?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I know.
Probably Jamaica.
That isn't you're a completely sober person too.
I make Mr. Clean look dirty.
Oh my gosh. Couldn't possibly imagine. I'm hammered right now. I'm fucking wasted. I killed 7 beers before you got here because I was nervous to do this.
Good. Hey, someone's got to do it.
But yeah, so and first of all, I like all the posts. It's like one of the few stories that I watch because you're always doing something so entertaining or so just looks so exciting. And so like the 6 months where I didn't see you because you were traveling all over the country and stuff, I'm like, how does she find the time?
Yeah. Well, and I think on another level too, I want to feel connected to people even if I'm not with them. Like it's great. People kind of already know what I've been doing and it's not like, oh, what have you been up to? I haven't seen you in 3 months. Well, you've been watching my stories. I know you know what
I've been doing. I've been doing a lot more keeping in mind. You have to stay conscious of the relationship that you have with social media, like what's coming in your feed. If you're getting super negged out by your social media, it's probably because of who you're following and what you're looking at. And so because social media is such a huge part of our daily lives and the way that we all interact with each other, you have to stay conscious of what your relationship with that is, so that social media can be a healthy tool for you rather than I'm stalking the shit out of my ex-boyfriend tool,
Absolutely.
She's like, there's a little bit of that.
Oh, there's a little bit of that. We'll just, come on. I am human and I am a female. But there was a viola player in LA that I followed and he made a really good point. He's like, I post a lot and I go live a lot, but he's like, but I actually don't spend a lot of time scrolling through other people's stuff. He's like, I don't have time because I'm too busy making content. I'm too busy working to actually spend a lot of time looking at everybody else's stuff. And that really resonated with me. And I'm like, all right, I want to know what my friends are doing. And I know who they are. I can go check out their pages or whatever, or see what the, recent trend is. But I honestly don't spend a lot of time looking at everybody else's stuff. I spend more time creating content than I do consuming it.
Yeah, clearly you don't look at my posts because you didn't know that this was a video podcast when you got here.
I did.
No, you probably just planned that line because you'd be like, oh, I would have dressed way nicer if I would have known it was.
I have a dress in the car.
Sorry, I was too busy. My own life was too busy being awesome on social media for me to look at yours.
No.
So do you know if so you said it's historically difficult for people of color and for females in the country music industry. Do you know if there are any other fiddle players like in mainstream country music that are touring that is either a person of color or a female? Or are you repping that whole role? All the weight of the world is on your shoulders in that regard.
I mean, there definitely are lots of female fiddle players and lots of fantastic ones.
Well, of course, female fiddle players, but I mean like a female of color that is at the level performing that you are in the country music industry.
Not that I know of. There's one gal, an older gal, that someone just showed me her page night before last. And she does more like roots country. And she's kind of a rock star. She's got like the snakeskin pants. She's got dreads and just like rocking out. She's played with some really key people here in Nashville. But like, I wouldn't say she's at the capacity of performing out as much as I am. I don't know. And I kind of like that. I kind of like being the only one, and I want to continue paving that way and being the first. I'm really
That's
excited.
So awesome. I mean, seriously, like it probably doesn't feel like that all the time, but if you look at the history of country music and you look at the people that have struggled in this industry because of the people that controlled it and monopolized it, to be able to say, are you proud to say that you are a woman of color up there playing fiddle in a genre of music that has been predominantly white male more than any other genre of music ever? I mean, that's a huge, I hope you wear it as a badge of honor and pride. And, I think you're a magnificent representation of your community in that regard.
Absolutely. 100%. It is something that I strive for. And I feel like I'm actually racing time because I do know there are so many other wonderful young females of Latin, Asian, white, you name it, the whole rainbow that's coming up. Country music has just hit so many different corners of ethnicities and socio-economical backgrounds. But I want to be the first. I want to be that person. And so just as back in high school, my goal was to be the most versatile, well-known number one violinist in town. Now this is my new goal, is to be a noted female of color in country music.
Amazing. We just brought that shit so full circle. Oh my gosh. I feel like The Circle of Life by Elton John is about to kick in. Oh, amazing. And the thing is, though, is that you're already there, and I can only imagine, the amount of women and females of color that you will inspire, in that regard in the years to come, because it's only going to get bigger from here, and it seems like this year has this been the craziest year of your life?
Absolutely.
Because just the sheer amount of traveling you do and the wide array of gigs that you do that I just like see on your social media and stuff. Like I said, I'm like, how does she find time to do it all? But I think it's super admirable to come from a place where you probably didn't hear George Strait all day, every day growing up in Northern California. Like I did. It would be synonymous to the Bible for me and the the presence of Alan Jackson and George Strait in Central Arkansas for me.
Yeah. Which I have so much respect for. I think that's amazing, and I'm almost envious.
So I'm curious though, like when at least like classic country and stuff, because I see on your stories and stuff too. Keep mentioning your Instagram stories, but they're just so exotic, people. If you'll just fucking go look at them, you'll see what I'm talking about. At Melissa Barrison, we'll put it up on the screen right here. Here in Nashville, playing those Alabama songs and Devil Went Down to Georgia is the cream of the crop of the show, really. Mm-hmm. If you're hired as a fiddle player, that's the highlight of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Is Devil and, the Alabama songs. So when did you learn those and start learning the nature of fiddle style playing rather than classical violin style playing?
It was a boy that I was falling in love with, and he loved country music and grew up on country music. And so I wanted to impress him. And so I started playing country and then Americana, and it didn't work out with the boy, but I learned that I can line dance, which I love dancing. And I'm like, oh, cool, I can dance and play fiddle. Like, let's do that. So that's where country came in.
Yeah, Copperhead Road.
When I first started playing in Nashville, there was a guy, he was the booking manager at Tootsie's at the time. And he gave me a list of about 30, 40 songs, fiddle tunes specifically. And he said, Melissa, don't show your face again here on Broadway until you know these like the back of your hand. So I went home for my home. I was living in Hendersonville for a couple of weeks. 2 weeks from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. Every day I took an hour for lunch, and I just practiced and learned all the licks, and then showed up and started playing Broadway. But
are you a fan of the music? Like, do you get down on a little Seminole wind?
Oh yeah. This is my jam. I love it.
Yeah, I love Johnny Anderson. What is your favorite fiddle? I hate cliche like, what's your favorite
song to play?
No. But what's your favorite country fiddle standard? Just a song that you like, not like that you like to play. I'm not requesting it right now, but I just mean musically. What country song, fiddle song?
Probably Seminole Wind.
It's the best,
it's
right?
The best.
Just
it's
that
so
intro.
Good.
It's so good. The piano and everything. And then just like the fade ins and outs. It's very musical and very, very beautiful. Always love playing that one. But since you brought it up, I've got to ask, you meet your father at age 21 through Facebook. Did you know if he was like alive? Did you know where he was at in the world? How did that happen? You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
No.
Yeah.
I'm an open book. I'm super easy. But yeah, so I met my dad on Facebook. He messaged me like April or May, my senior year of college. And he just said something super simple, like, not trying to pry, born, March 5th, blah, 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 blah. I love you. And, if that's all I ever get to say to you, I'm good. And I was like, whoa, this is my dad. And I never met him, never had any contact my whole life. Most of my childhood, I thought he had died in a car crash just because I made that up because I didn't know where he was. So I made it up, and my mom corrected me in high school. She was like, no. So yeah, he found me. I told my mom, and she's like, well, you're an adult now. You have the choice if you want him in your life. Just know that I chose to not have him in your life for a reason, but you're an adult and you can make those decisions. So fast forward, November of that year, I flew up to Northern California and had Thanksgiving with him, met him for the first time. And it's amazing how much genetics play a part in who you are, just our smile, the things we say, how we think. I mean, I am so much like my dad, and we've never even met. I mean, even down to our signatures are almost identical. And yeah, so 2 weeks after I met my dad, my mom passed away. So it was like kind of perfect timing in the universe of like lose one parent, gain another. And he and I aren't like really close or anything by that means, because knowing my dad, I've learned that parents are just kids having kids, and I love him. I'm glad he loves me, and I know he would be there for me if I ever needed him, but I went 21 years without him. I can do another 21.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know you'd lost your mom either, so I'm sorry to hear that. But that is, I think about the genetics thing all the time, that just the most mind-blowing aspect of life is that you're like kind of like cloning yourself with another person, and it's just the smallest thing. It's just absolutely unbelievable. So I'm sure that was eerie to like see pieces of yourself in a person that was responsible for your existence.
Yeah.
And your entire existence they were absent for. I bet that just was probably too much all at once.
It was definitely a trip. But I don't know, you can't put too much weight on it. Like, I'm still my own person, and he and I still have a lot of differences moving forward.
So I would like to end with this. Hypothetically speaking, say that there was someone who is in a similar life situation as you were when you were a kid, or the things that you have battled and conquered in your career and the journey to get to be the person that you are today. What would you say to 9, or maybe not 9-year-old because that's super young, but 15-year-old Melissa, who's had that violin in her hands for a little while, and she's got that studded Hot Topic belt, and she's sitting over at the goth table. What advice would you give to a younger version of yourself to persevere down this path?
I've thought about this. These are what I call shower thoughts. I think, if I can transfer myself back in time, what would I say? We can go hop in. No, just kidding. But I've thought about that, different walks of life, like, when I was going through a breakup or a career change, or, even in high school, like, what would I say to myself? And I don't know. I think I would just be so flabbergasted. There's another me. I'd probably just tell myself to not give up and keep going. Don't worry about what anybody thinks or says, because what you feel in your heart and your soul and what you're passionate about, that's there for a reason. I believe that that's something that God has instilled in you, and you need to listen to that and not let anybody else detract from that or allow yourself to doubt that. Also start investing a lot younger.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the greatest crimes of public education is that there should be like classes like there is algebra for understanding how accounts work, how Roth IRAs work, taxes, none of that shit. Student loans. I mean, like, you're going in there as an 18-year-old kid signing, give me $40,000. And
You don't know what that means.
for some reason, I really didn't quite understand that I'd have to pay it back.
Right.
And I know that sounds stupid and sounds like I was an idiot, but I wasn't an idiot at 18.
You can't comprehend what that number is and how many hours that takes to make that money.
The gravity, of that. And so I definitely think that, but I like the answer that you gave in that regard. And I definitely think a lot of people, keep it more like sentimental, what I would tell myself, but definitely shit. If there's any kids or any parents of people that are raising their children, tell your kids how money works. Teach your children the value of the dollar. Make them get a job at 16.
That was me.
I'm always, cursing about people that, got fed a silver spoon and they don't know how to do anything, don't know how to change a flat tire or anything.
Gosh. They don't even know how to get ice out of the ice.
Yeah.
But not only that, but like probably the best piece of advice I've gotten as an adult is to invest in yourself, especially as a musician and an artist, because it's something that, at least for an instrumental player who's so busy playing for everybody else and pouring in and investing into everybody else's project, investing in yourself and who you are as an artist, not just as a musician, and your needs and what you need to grow and be successful. Invest in yourself. It's probably the most valuable thing that one of my mentors has given to me over the last couple of years. Invest in yourself. What are your hobbies outside of music? Netflix? No, I don't even have Netflix. I don't watch TV. I have Hulu, and I love cartoons. I watch like Rick and Morty and Family Guy. I love tennis. I love playing tennis. Yeah, I love tennis. I played in high school and college a little bit. When was the last time you hit the court? Probably last time I was in San Diego. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and back in San Diego, you got that pet bird, too. Oh, Archer. That'll be the last thing we mention, because I got to let you go to your gig. You got to play at 4 p.m. Oh, shoot, I do. Yeah. Look at that. But what is that? What kind of bird is that? He's a little cockatiel. He's a cockatiel. He's a handicap cockatiel. I might have you send me like a video or like some videos. Like if there's stuff that we talk about, be like, hey, can you send me a video of you like doing this? And I'll like put it in like the montage thing or whatever. Oh, absolutely. I'll find a Pride Rock. No. Yeah. Hold up, Archer. Yeah. Good old Archer. But no, yeah, I think you are a fascinating person, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming to do this, and so I feel privileged to know you and to be able to work with you every now and then. If ever you're in Nashville, you will be lucky enough to catch a show that Melissa is on with me, but she'll probably be doing something way cooler. And with any luck, I'll work my way off Broadway in the next year or two. But you're a light in the world, Melissa. You're a talented girl. And thanks so much for doing my podcast and telling me a little bit about your life and hopefully providing some amazing advice for other people that are interested in doing something like what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm super excited for your up and coming episodes and your music career and your album. And I love playing with you. Please never stop calling me, even if I say no a million times, because that one yes, I have a blast with you. It's so worth it. That one yes. I think one time you had said no so many times. It was like over the summer, and I sent you back a GIF or GIF of like me just like jumping off of a mountain. I think I texted you back. I'm like, keep asking me. I still want to. And I'm like, as long as you don't get annoyed saying no. No, as long as you don't get annoyed asking. I don't get annoyed asking you. So, but yeah, thanks for your time and good luck with your gig. Thanks. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll probably sit down and edit this to where it's out around Thanksgiving. I'll probably do it tomorrow. So. Oh yeah. But anyway, thanks so much, Melissa. Melissa Barrison, everybody. Check her out at Melissa Barrison on Instagram. And are you talking? You TikToking? Yeah, I'm going kicking and screaming, but yeah. Kick talk. Melissa Barrison, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Payton Collier podcast.